Hello everybody, welcome back. I know it's been a little bit since my last video, but this one's going to be kind of a request video. I have a friend who also does 3D printing. He's just getting into it, and he really liked how I had my support set up, and he was having some problem with his. So this video is going to be showing how I set my supports up, how I set my infill and things like that up for strength, and also minimizing, filament use to save money. I'm doing this D-Rex for my daughter. It's her birthday coming up, and she wants this put on her birthday cake. So this thing's actually going to require a good bit of supports and some strength. So the first thing I do, you come over here to this drop-down menu. If yours is closed, it's just a little thing here that you click on and it opens it up or closes it. So first thing you want to do, you want to double check, make sure it's got your correct printer. Then your filament and colors. I'm only doing this in one color because I'm going to paint it later. Then if you have it in object, you can't really change anything. Come over here and you click global. And that's where you're going to open all of your settings. You got your quality settings, your strength settings, your speed settings, your support settings, and your other. First thing you want to do is, you don't really mess with quality here too much. What I always do is I come over here and I will click variable layer height. So you can use adaptive or you can use smooth. So adaptive gives you sharper edges. Look over here, it'll show you your different layer heights and stuff that you're using. For things with a lot of radius and stuff like that, I'll always use smooth on the correct object here. Click on the object, variable layer height, smooth, and I always click keep minimums. So right here, if you want to do it yourself, you can kind of adjust it how you want it done, how you want your layer heights. Usually I try to keep it as close to 1.5. I don't really go all the way down to 5. That's kind of really low. That's going to take forever to print. But you can always just hit reset and it'll set everything back to the basic, and then you can click, adaptive or smooth. But that's it for quality. And then you come over here and you go to your strength. We're going to reduce our amount of infill, so we're actually going to increase our wall loops. So I always increase this to 3. It'll be set by default to 2, but if you're going to take out some infill, you probably want to up your wall loops just for strength. And then these ones right here, your top and bottom shells, I leave the same because they seem to come out pretty well with just the base settings. The next things we're going to change, come here to your sparse infill. This 15% is way too much. I always do like 7 or 8%. If I'm doing something for one of my kids, I'm going to do 8% just because it helps, with a little extra strength. And you're going to want to change this grid. Grid uses a lot of filament for really not much more strength. So if you switch to gyroid, it gives you more strength, and it's a little more flexible too, actually. And then these advanced settings, these here is like how close you want your infill to come to your walls and things like that. These are really not things you have to mess with too much. Your speed, I never adjust the speed unless I think something's going to need more detail. The slower it goes, the better your details are going to come out. Then you come here to your supports. Scroll all the way back up here. So, you know, your support will usually be off unless you already have it turned on. You always just click enable supports. Type, I always use the tree auto style default. This right here, this threshold angle, this is actually pretty important to change. I always make mine 45 degrees. This threshold angle basically is like the angle at which it adheres to the print. At 45, it's a little bit easier to pull off without damaging the filament that you already printed down and laid down. Okay, and then these here, if you click this one, it'll only make supports attached to the bed. So like if you have something that needs support from itself, it won't do it. So I leave that one off. This support critical regions, if you're printing something that doesn't have a lot of overhangs or something that lays on top of itself, you don't really need to do this one too much. This is more for if you've got a flat one. But this one here, it's not really flat. See all the little arms and stuff like that? We're going to need to support all those. So we're going to leave this off. We're not going to just support critical things. Now, your raft layers. Raft layers, I found more help with bed adhesion. So if you're printing with matte PLA or anything that you have, you know, that you're having problems with it adhering, even after you clean your bed plate, go ahead and enable raft layers. And I always do like 3 to 4 layers. You can do 1, 2. It just helps with bed adhesion. And then you're going to come down here. This is your next really important thing for your supports. Right here, you're going to want to change this. That 0.8 is way off. Your supports aren't even going to come off by that with that. I always change that to 0.31 for the top Z distance. That's basically how far it is between your support and your object. So you don't want it too far away because then it won't help. And you don't want it too close because then it's just going to stick to it. And your bottom Z distance, you're also going to change that to 0.31. This helps for basically like when you're having things that are going to support to itself so it doesn't stick. Because basically what's going to happen is these little hands here are going to like be supported partially by the chest. So the support's going to sit on the chest. So if you don't do the bottom Z distance, it'll stick to the chest, and then but it won't stick to the hand, and you're just going to have trouble getting it off. But I always change those support settings to that. These rest of them, the default, the base pattern, I just leave as default. The rest of this stuff you can pretty much just leave alone. You don't have to mess with any of this. So a lot of this stuff is more niche. You're going to change this stuff based on like 1 or 2 items that you do. But for the most part, that's all you're going to have to do. And then you just come over here and hit slice. Here's where it's generating your supports. Like I said, this one's going to have a lot of supports, so like when it populates, you're not even going to be able to see the object anymore. You're just basically going to see supports around it. I've actually got another print going right now for someone else. They wanted a little desk object. That's probably what y'all are hearing in the background, but... And here it is generating the layers. Wow, so this thing had a lot more layers than I thought it was going to have. I guess that's because I used the variable layer height, and this is where you're going to add a lot of time to your print if you change your variable layer heights. And you see right here, since I'm only printing it one color, it's not using a whole lot of filament because I'm not doing filament changes. But if you look here, if I can get it to, for, it's only doing 122 grams, and your supports 26 grams, but look at all of these supports it's going to have. You know, if you do it by layer, this thing's going to be covered in supports. See how I was telling you the supports could kind of attach to the chest too. That's why you do the bottom Z distance. But it's going to take quite a while to print this because it's a pretty detailed model, even in one color. When I sliced this before, changing the infill, this was actually over 200 grams. So you can see how much just changing your infill can lower how much it's going to take. And then that's about it. You just hit print plate and send it to your printer.